this is the reality of how human nature works. Most people don't want to change anything about themselves. They don't want to better themselves. They don't want to go through any pain and suffering. So they won't change anything. They'll just keep on going the way things are going until there's some like, let's take a somebody that smokes for example. They're hacking up blood. They go to the doctor. The doctor says they got cancer. And then at that point they finally realize I'm gonna do something about it. But it's almost at that when you get to that point, it's almost too late. That's the thing with people. The average person is they either wait till it's too late and you're pretty much doomed. That's pretty much it. That's how people work. People people want to avoid pain and suffering as much as possible. And that is the only way you actually change for the better. A lot of people will not try to better themselves. If you can inflict pain and suffering on yourself, whether you take cold showers or you work out, I'm talking about positive pain and suffering, fasting and all that. During the good times, when the party's over and the bad times come, you're gonna be emotionally stable. Um, and a lot of other people aren't going to be able to deal with it because they're going to be going through that pain and suffering. They're not going to be good leaders. So that's why I say if you can really mold yourself during the good times where you have so much ample supply of things, whether it's food or being able to educate yourself, you know, and you go through, and if the bad times do come, if they ever do come, then like a depression or something, then those people who are mostly sheep or NPCs, they will be those people will be so hard off because a lot of people aren't going to give up their vices and their addictions because they don't have to. You know, I seen early on when I was right before I had kids, you know, I got my ex-wife pregnant, right? And she had miscarriage, right? But at that point I realized I had to give up smoking cigarettes. Not only because I didn't want my kids to be around it cuz I figured I was probably going to have kids. But not only for that factor, but financially, I knew I couldn't afford it going forward. And it was just a drain on me. So I quit. And how I quit, which back then, like I didn't have kids, or nothing. So I smoked a lot of weed. That's how I got over it. But it was pretty tough, honestly. I worked as a dishwasher at the time. And the waitresses where they smoked, because they still smoked indoors at that time, they would smoke by me, so that was always in my face, and that really sucked. And how I just listened to music, and that's how I kind of got through that. But if you can see patterns and how things could happen, how I've seen it, I just couldn't afford cigarettes, and I'm not in the best financial position. I'm not one of these rich folks. I'm not even middle class. I would classify myself as lower middle class or upper poverty level class. This is the position I have been in. Now, I have been in this position for a while because I made some major mistakes in my past, right? Um Either having kids when I couldn't afford them and not having any kind of skills or anything like that. and having to rely on the government for government assistance when they're really little. And I finally got myself off of that, which is really, really difficult. But going through a divorce, having to pay for the divorce, and I'm very fortunate. She was really cool with me, and everything, and how everything turned out. Things could have been so much worse. Whether it was my DUI, which that I had all my debt paid off at that time, and then I got my DUI, and then that set me back big time. And then another big mistake was a huge emotional mistake was my ex fiance. She was doing some really bad things when it comes to like she was taking the worst drugs you could possibly take, and this was such a dumb mistake I did. I pretty much got her a really expensive engagement ring, right? And I did this because I didn't want her to leave me, and I wanted to show her how much trust I had into her, that she was doing the best, like she was doing good, and getting off of that stuff, and I was trying to help her. But that was a huge mistake. I should have never let that person back in my life, and um and I should have never paid that much for any ring for anybody. Most women don't deserve that. Um, and then like moving, changing jobs recently, where I moved to Washington State and I had to start from scratch, and I realized I don't want my kids becoming adults here, and then moving to Missouri, starting over from scratch, going to the bottom of the barrel. That's a lot of money that I could have invested in different places, and then I totally screwed myself. Which I've been pretty smart about different investments now, and I'm pretty confident going forward, as long as I keep working hard and continue, because I got a decent job. um I'll be in a good spot. My kids are almost graduated, or they're almost 18, they're almost adults, and I can finally live for myself, and work to build my brand, which I should have done that when I was a kid. I should have, as soon as I got my GED, which I should have got when I was right when I dropped out when I was 17, but I waited until I was 25 because I was lazy. And I didn't really have a masculine figure in my life. I was completely beta, completely weak, completely emotional. Came from that single mother type of. She did the best she could, but that type of atmosphere where she couldn't make me into a man. She taught me some really good morals, definitely. But there's a lot of things that I've learned over the years about everything that I just didn't get in that time, and I love my mom to death, and all that. And like I said, she did the best she could. Just like I've made plenty of mistakes, like I wanted to put on this video. Um, and I've apologized to my kids. I've apologized to my kids for my failed marriage with their mother, and moving here and there, and going back and forth with my ex fiance, and I apologize for that, and I acknowledge that, and I think that goes pretty far. It doesn't make up completely for those mistakes, but at least I acknowledge it to them, that I am human, that I have made mistakes, and I'm gonna continue to make mistakes because I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Um, I probably should have just stayed in Michigan, and let them graduate school there. That's what I should have done instead of moving everywhere. I would have been better off financially. But who knows what would have happened? Maybe I got back with my ex fiance. You know what I mean? Because I was weak still. I still really cared about her at that time. And that's part of the reason why I left. And that's really bad. That's not masculine at all. But over the last few years, it's really life has really been pretty rough on me, and made me grow up, and people wonder why I don't smile, or seem like I have fun, or I enjoy life, because it's pretty hard when you make pretty bad choices. And it's cool, I get to spend some time with my family and stuff like that, but when you make really bad choices financially, it can set you back, and it's not fun. So my whole point is you know, it takes pain and suffering for people to want to make drastic changes in their life to better themselves. If they're comfortable in their life and nothing, there's not a huge financial collapse in their own personal life or with the country or anything like that, people aren't going to change. And that's just how it is. And it doesn't matter. It's like the red pill, trying to explain the red pill to men and explain, that are weak in their relationships, and you can see it and you want to try to help them, but you really can't. All you can do is you can talk about it, but they're not going to really make any choices to better themselves because they're comfortable until that relationship ends, and then they go through pain and suffering, and then they wake up and they realize, oh man, I need to make some choices, and wonder, like, do some self-reflection, like I have done. So it's kind of like, when you try to help people better themselves or their lives in a position, and it's kind of like talking to a wall. You can do it all day and night, but until this person actually goes through some hard pain and suffering, I can't help them. The only way I can help them if they actually hit rock bottom and then they want to come to me. You can't force that stuff on people. And you know so yeah, I mean, that's just human nature. If people are comfortable, they're not gonna change. They're just not. It's just like they're just not hungry. It's like a prize fighter. They get to the top, they're hungry as heck on the way up, and then they get there, and they're not gonna want to go work out like they used to. They're comfortable. They're not going to want to get up at 4 a.m. and go work out, in the cold no more because they're comfortable. And then guess what happens? They lose their title. It's just, and then when they lose their title and they go through that pain and suffering, then they get that hunger back. So if people don't go through any pain and suffering in their life, I mean, that's all you can do. And that's my advice for people that, if you're red pilled or you want to try to help people, is you really can't unless they come to you and they're really, like, really want help. And if they don't want to listen, it is what it is. You have to, like, wash your hands, and you can be there for them and you can be cool with them, but it's like you can't give advice to people or anything like that or wisdom if they don't want to hear it. you know um so that, yeah, that's it.